Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. We're glad you're here. And Ramie, good morning to you. We hope Jessica joins us later. We don't know why she's not here yet, but that's great. It'll go wonderful anyway. And our guest today is Tami Goulet. And I met Tami before I read her bio. I met Tami when I was doing my book, or before. I met her about a year when I was starting to work on my book, and she was gracious to write a kind review for me on the back. And so if you get my book, check out her review. Here we go, Jessica.
Okay.
Awesome. You could join us. So glad. Glad you're here.
Yeah. Hello.
So,
Yeah.
hello. And so I was just getting ready to read Tami's bio here so we could introduce her to the audience. Tami Goulet is the Soulful Business Alchemist behind Speak Your Soul Magicks, empowering stressed out solopreneurs to reclaim balance and thrive in their entrepreneurial journey. With over 25 years of corporate experience and over 5 years as a solopreneur, Tami combines practical strategies with a touch of magic to guide her clients to success and unlock their full potential. So that is awesome. And so, Tami, I like that you use the word alchemist and you use the word magics. And I was just overviewing your website, and you talked about how we were all spiritual beings in a physical body, not what we're grow up thinking we are. And I think Ramie and Jessica and I totally agree with that too. So what I find, well, I heard that Dr. Bruce Lipton had said a little bit ago that spirit and energy, those terms basically have the same definition. And to me, intention and magic kind of have the same definition, and really alchemy to some degree, although it's slightly different process. But the other three terms are how you integrate the spirit and energy to enhance our lives, right? That's how I see it. So could you tell us how you got started in magic and alchemy and business work?
Okay. So I always knew, well, first of all, thank you for having me. It is wonderful being here with you three ladies. I am so looking forward to this conversation. I've known Carla for a little while, and I always enjoyed our time together, our discussions, the different perspectives, and just the sort of not calling each other out, but basically like, well, what do you think about this? And what do you think about that? So it's always been really interesting. But I always knew I was different. Even from a very young age, I was able to see spirits and have conversations with them when I was much younger. So, I mean, I remember having conversations with my mom saying, "Mom, you can't sit there. The man's there." And my mom would look at me like, "What man, Tami?" And I'm like, "Oh, the man who's here to take care of us. It's all good." You know, like the 3-year-old talking to the mother and saying, "It's okay." But then as time went on and I didn't have a mentor at that time, I started just pushed it aside. But I've always been able to feel the energy in a room. I've been very empathetic. I have been very attuned to people's emotions and what people are thinking. And I've just sort of known things before they've happened. And so that's sort of how I've been in the magic. And I've always looked towards finding a mentor who could help me expand upon it and better understand it, because while it, travels through my family, it's not very much talked about within my family. So I finally found some mentors after the universe finally sat me down on my butt and made me listen. So
it seems to do that to us, doesn't it?
Oh, it does. And, I had sort of listened, but I wasn't listening enough. And so I had an accident where I broke both ankles, and I literally had to sit on my butt and listen. And this was back in 2018.
Oh.
And so I didn't know it at the time, but I went through the dark night of my soul, and I started really looking at everything in my life from a different perspective. I basically got to the point right before that where I had everything I ever thought I wanted in life, and it was a beautiful life on paper. But I was really, really unhappy. I describe it as I was in a glass box that kept getting smaller and smaller with chains on me that kept getting heavier and heavier. And I was screaming at the top of my lungs, and nobody was listening. Nobody was hearing me, not even me. And so I finally listened, sought help through a social worker and a psychologist, and they helped, but I always was looking for that more. I knew there was something more that I was missing that neither the social worker or the psychologist was able to help me with. And it was that spiritual piece. It was that piece of, I have this issue that I know isn't from this lifetime, but I didn't know how to describe it at the time. It was like energy and memories and life lessons that had followed me from past lifetimes. And then I started pulling in future lifetimes just to add to it. And then I broke both ankles and started down the path that I'm now on, which is helping other people find their more in both business and personal. So I love it.
Well, very cool. Very cool. And you mentioned 25 years of C-suite or business. So what did you do then? You don't have to go into detail if you don't want to, but just what type of work?
I was always the individual who was able to take software programs, learn them, and teach them to others, as well as create policies and processes and procedures and basically streamline business processes for everybody. So I call myself a unicorn in the regard that I love technical and I love the practical and the everyday sort of admin type stuff that you have to do in a job. And I'm completely spiritual and magical. So I have figured out a way to marry them and live a life that I'm very happy with. And it's not easy to marry them because we are taught, right, that you're either practical or you're magical. You can't necessarily be both. And the reality is we are all one person. And when you sort of like try and divide yourself, it doesn't work. Something's always missing.
Yeah, for sure. Very good. Ramie, Jessica, you have any questions for Tami?
Can I work with you?
No, that's what I was thinking.
I'm ready.
Yeah.
Sign me up,
I
Tami.
need some of those streamlined processes,
I do
right?
too.
I need someone to kind of, I took like for, I have my website on Wix. So I took read through all their videos and stuff on it and their examples. And so then I kind of cut and pasted different parts and switched words around to fit me to get policy and procedures. But I mean, I didn't hire a lawyer and I don't want to. And it's like, well, are they okay? Right? Do they work if I had to rely on them? I don't know. Anyone listening, please don't try me on it. So,
Yeah,
do you offer classes to people
I do.
on technology?
I do. I'm working on a group program offering that I'm working to set up where it's an interesting group program. It's called the Circle Method, and Circle stands for Clarifying Inner Reality and Co-Creating Life Experiences. So that's what the acronym is. And it is all about taking a look at your business from a streamlined ease of use process. So it goes from, and I'm talking to solopreneurs. So I'm not talking necessarily to the people who have, 10 employees, because it's a very different conversation to have than people who are like us, who are completely solopreneurs and are doing it all on our own. So it's all about helping people take a look at what they can do, where they struggle, and where they struggle, what solutions are available. So how to take advantage of AI, how to take advantage of things that are out there to be able to make our lives easier. I am not a copywriter. I mean, I can write. I'm definitely, I have authored a few chapters, but the copywriting aspect and sales aspect is very different. And it takes my mind to a different place. But I've figured out a way to get AI to help me so it still sounds like me, but it's, you know, what people are used to seeing in the marketplace. Because while we all want to be unique, and while we all want to be have our own words out there, and the, you know, what works in our brains doesn't necessarily work out in the marketplace, people are used to seeing things a certain way. And so if you try to be completely different, people are going to go, what the heck are you doing? Because this is outside the norm. Again, it's like living that spiritual life, you know, in a human world, where you need to be able to incorporate everything into what is happening within the world now and slowly make the changes so that people get used to something new. Because if you suddenly hit them with something new, they're going to go, oh, nope, not for me. Thank you. I don't like this. So yes, I do offer group programs. I also offer one-on-one, and I do offer it's a one-off 90-minute session where it's called the II audit. And it goes through everything, asks you questions, and figures out where your greatest need is at this point in time. And then we work on that right away.
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very
Well,
cool,
Tami, I think you've got 3 new clients.
I'm you know, completely open for it. I love it.
Good. Well, that's a great service. Yeah.
It is.
It is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope this blows you up.
Well, thank you. I hope so too, because I love it.
Yeah.
And yes, I'm happy to talk with whoever would like to talk with me after.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, I love it because I've talked to people with the technical, the other side, but don't have the, you know,
Right.
necessarily my beliefs, the spiritual. And so that's just a beautiful thing. I'd prefer to work with somebody who had my beliefs and my understanding of the world, I guess.
Because it is different. It is different.
Yeah.
We look at things from a very different perspective. It's not like I want a cookie cutter solution, and that's not what I offer. I offer unique individual solutions for each person I work with, because we're all different, right? I mean, there is a common thread that needs to run through, but we are all unique, and we need our unique voices and our unique ways of doing things and our unique perspectives out there, because that is what draws our clients to us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
Oh, go ahead, Ramie.
No, that's how we could describe ourselves, because we basically are all doing the same thing, right? But we express it differently. Jessica through the gut, Carla through biofield, me through hypnosis and life coaching, you through spirituality and technical. I mean, we're all in this together. Yeah, but we are very unique in how we approach it. I use hypnosis as a tool. Carla uses tuning forks. Yeah. Jessica uses potions. She uses herbals and exfoliators and
food is
mixes
medicine.
it. Oh yeah, there's always something. Sometimes I think, I wonder what she's drinking. What's Jessica drinking? I do think that. I think, what
All
is she
kinds of
popped
stuff
up today?
Or I think when I
And
pick up
wonder.
something that's not organic, and I think, well, I'm just going to eat it. But I wish I was like Jessica and could just organic all the time.
Yeah.
I'm going to start texting you every day now,
Yeah,
Carla.
I'm trying to. Oh, yeah. I want to. I did smoothies for years, like 7-8 years, and now I can hardly stand it. But I'm looking again for something with herbs and fruit, because I can't do it without fruit, I don't think. But anyway, so I'm working on that. If you have an idea, Jessica, let me know. I wouldn't mind spiraling, some kind of greens, and then fruit and protein, of course. Yeah. So, and for years I did, I did a raspberry one, but anyway, with protein. But
that sounds good. But I was thinking of the talking about a little bit about herbs and magic together. That this was, and we have, Tammy, I think Jessica and Ramie know, but we have here, my husband and I, 1,000 crowns of asparagus. It's in this big plot. And so I've been picking asparagus all spring, and there's this weed that keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And it's like I didn't know what it was. A lot of the basic farm weeds and stuff, I knew what they were, and a lot of them I haven't found a good medicinal purpose. But this one I didn't know, and instead of pulling it out, something all spring just had me leave it there, leave it there, leave it there. And so I thought, well, I'm cleaning all the other junky weeds out of the asparagus now that I've quit picking them. And I thought, okay, it's time to either, take that weed out of there or find out about it, right? And so something made me, instead of looking up in a book, which I could have done as the first thing, I walk out in the garden to the plant and I hold its leaves and I say, I don't know what you are, but are you medicinal? If you're medicinal, I want to keep you. And it says, yes, highly medicinal. And so I run back inside and I grab the first herb book that I glanced over them, and the one that caught my eye, I pull it down, look through the list, and I see a word. I thought, I bet that's it. Yes, it was. And it was like burdock. And it's like, it's huge. It's almost like 30 inches tall now. It's like 30 inches in circumference. I mean, it's big. It's cramping my asparagus. Goodness. And so, but it's so highly medicinal. It's like you can take these huge leaves and you can use them fresh or you can use them dry and rehydrate them. And if you have a large burn or a large wound of some kind, you just keep it covered with these leaves and it heals it. And it's good for kidneys. It heals your kidney. It heals psoriasis. On and on and on. The list is like huge. And it's like, that to me is magic, right? That I was listening to my spirit. I was hearing nature talk to me about, leave this plant. And then it's like, wow. And when so of course I went out right away and I picked, lots of leaves because I had so many big basal leaves that were covering up asparagus anyway. So I didn't scalp it or anything. It still has tons of leaves, but I ended up picking probably eight leaves or 10 leaves and brought them in and cleaned them up. And you have to use scissors and cut a big thick vein off the back of them so that they can lay flat. And so they're on our drying rack. And but it was, if hopefully we don't need it, but it was like it was so timely and so purposefully. It's like, I'm going to need this. I'm going to prepare it so I have it, and just in case type of thing. And so I don't know, like I say, I hope we don't have a wound or a burn that needs something, or anyone else, like my neighbors or anything. But it was like magical, because suddenly this plant that was just huge, cramping my asparagus, is something wonderful, awesome, that can enhance my life, right?
There will be a need for it, but it's going to be a medicinal, it's going to be at the start of something that this will help heal.
Oh, well, that's cool.
That's what I'm getting from it. So yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. In fact, I thought I saw little babies around the bottom of it. So this morning I went out, but they had just been huge dandelions that had been shaded, so got like massive, right? The leaves of the dandelion plant. So I didn't see babies. It's a biennial plant. I do know that because I grew them in shade when we were homesteading. I'd planted them, and so they were little ones, so I didn't get to see really what the leaves looked like and what it grew into. And if they're when we were homesteading, it was kind of in mostly shade, so it didn't grow real big in the time. But here it's been in full sun all day long and it would have started, I know it started last year and overwintered because I saw it then and didn't do anything. And so, wonderful. Yeah. Um, awesome.
I
Thank
love
you,
the way
Tammy.
the universe works like that.
I know. Yeah, I know. It is so, so awesome. Yeah. So, would you mind telling us an experience you had with your magic in your life, or in a client, if you'd rather use something like that?
Let me think. Sure. I mean, I have plenty. I'm trying to figure out. For some reason, this keeps coming up right now. One thing that I truly believe is that inside every trauma is a miracle waiting to be discovered. And as I've looked back on my life, especially with the broken ankles, I mean, that was a huge trauma. Obviously, like in all forms and fashion, physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, all of it. But without that experience, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today. I wouldn't have stepped into who I am here to be. And I just love all things magical right now. So I guess a really good one is I do home blessings. I do home cleansing and blessings. And I was doing one for a friend of a friend. So I knew her, but I didn't really know her. And cleaning out everything and the energy from all of she had a bunch of family, their mother's pieces, her grandmother, her mother's grandmother's pieces in the basement, and the energy felt really, really heavy. Like it was almost like the basement was sinking into the ground. And I cleansed it all and everything, and told her what she needed to do with this. But something really interesting was I went out to the garage because I'm like, you got to cleanse the garage. And I'm like, okay. I mean, it opens and closes. I didn't quite get why I needed to cleanse the garage, but I started, went out and cleansed the garage to be thorough. But it was like really pushing me. And I walked past the snowblower, and the snowblower said, "This is her power." And I'm like, okay, you're just weird, right? Because you're human. We're human. And I'm like, yeah, snowblower power, ha ha ha. Anyway, so I get back inside. I pulled some more cards for her because the house wanted cards. Each person who lived in the house wanted cards, and the dog wanted cards. So I'm like, okay, fine, no problem. And I said to her, I cleansed the house, and this was what was going on, and talked about her closet because the closet had a lot of emotions attached to it. I talked about the basement. And then I said, oh, and by the way, the snowblower wants me to let you know that is your power. And I'm like, I have no idea. And my friend and this person burst out laughing. And I'm like, well, why? And they're like, you have no idea the story behind that snowblower and how she, for the first time in her life, took it upon herself to stand up to so many people about that snowblower. That snowblower has been in her possession for over 15 years. Her ex-husband kept trying to get her to get rid of it. She said, no, it's mine. I'm going to fix it. She fixed it. Her sister borrowed it, wasn't giving it back to her. She fought her sister, stood up for her, and brought it back in. And she's like, okay, I'm done being a doormat, because unfortunately that's where she had been and how she was behaving. And she says, I'm going to embody the power of the snowblower. But it's so fascinating to me that no history, no knowledge, and this speaks to me, and it helps her see herself in a different light through a snowblower. But it was so wild. And I mean, I love doing it because I do it with cards, I do it with messages I receive, like the one I received for you. But I've also helped clients completely shift and transform their lives. I had someone who was in a really bad place, really, really bad, struggling financially, struggling professionally, struggling all over it. And I had to help her shift her mindset out of victim mentality into, one, what am I doing to keep this repeating pattern happening? Because we're the only common denominator in our own lives. We are the only one who is there all the time. So any repeating pattern we have is something that we need to learn. And how she could shift her story by taking a look back and shifting her perspective. So, I'm not a victim anymore. I'm now a co-creator of my life, or I'm no longer going to be a passenger. I'm going to be the driver, or I'm no longer going to be an extra in my own play. I'm actually going to be the leading lady kind of thing. So it's a matter of helping people see the magic in the everyday through means in which they will understand it and accept it.
Yeah, because it goes, I'm thinking one of the deep lessons I have learned, but it's hard to get there. You need is that um, that deepest pain you have, or the trauma, your highest trauma. The alchemy, then, after it's alchemized, or you need the process of not just clearing it, but alchemizing it, then to realize, to really know with all your being that that's your joy, that's your power, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's so hard to get from seeing that in one step. So, like, the universe gives us these little steps along the way so that when we get here after several steps, we can say, that's what that's for. Thank you, universe, right?
Yeah.
Thank you. It wasn't any fun and I didn't like it, but it was what I needed, and I thank you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Uh,
Yep.
Beautiful. It made me tear up. Because for me anyway, it was dear to my heart because it was something I had written about in the book, and my dad, who had passed away, had said, when you find your deepest pain, you'll rejoice, or you'll know the joy for that, and that's what happened. It
Mm-hmm.
was, yeah, it's beautiful how it works. It's painful, right? It's painful not just having the trauma or having those experiences, but the growth can be painful as well.
I mean, you all have to admit that the journey into knowing oneself at your core is not for the faint of heart. It is not for the people who are like, oh, I'm just going to, play at this and go top level, because you get pulled in and you have to face so many things, not only about yourself, but about what you perceive the world around you to be, that you need to be strong for it. You need to be willing to do the work and to be completely open-minded as you journey.
And that's a challenge for sure. um, and the length of time that it takes, right? Because there's no easy fix. I mean, some patterns change fairly easy, so you can see a shift. And say, like, I noticed that in biofield sessions, once in a while, there's someone that has a big shift with one session and feels, that's good for now, and doesn't want anymore. And some will have 6 or 12 and shift several patterns, and that's enough. But then for myself, like, if I keep going and going and going, the longer I have them, the deeper they get, the more you find that of why you think the way you do, and what negativity, what negative energy you might have. And it just gets deeper and deeper, and life gets then better and better and better
It
as
does. It
as
really
it's
does.
clear, as you heal.
Yeah. Carla and Ramie both know where I was in 2020, wanting to end my life. And then I had a huge shift. And then the end of 2021, and it was the Lionsgate Day, and I was just learning about all this stuff, and was doing all these, trying to improve myself and manifest all these things. And what I manifested that night was a near-death experience. And Carla knows because I called her the very next day. And Ramie knows because I talked to her about it. And she said, I remember, and, they both helped me through it. But, Ramie said, because I thought it was a horrible experience, right? It was a scary, horrible experience. But she said that it was actually a breakthrough. And so I started looking at it differently. And, from there, it's not like things have been easy like we've been talking about. It's not that things were roses right away. But now it's led me to where now, and we've talked about this before, I'm listening to like the Abraham Hicks videos. And yes, I've been through several now dark nights of the soul with my, in all my past life. And now I'm realizing we have to work on our emotions on a moment by moment basis, and so, but it's taken me all this to get to that, to where, doing, the affirmations and saying all these things and doing all the breath work and all these things. So it's a whole process, but I'm finally now starting to feel that, okay, things are getting a little weird feeling here. Let's just think about something nice. Think about butterflies, and just get in that better vibration. And things have been shifting. So it's an interesting, it's definitely an interesting road, but it's beautiful too. Then you can look back and say, oh, thank you. Like Carla was saying, thank you, universe. So.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I help clients with is how to incorporate the spiritual into your everyday. I think, Carla, you picked up my empower your everyday. And I mean, it's simple. And Jessica, I'm sure you do this, but like, when you get your cup of coffee in the morning, stir in your intentions. It's really, really easy, right? It's like, I'm going to have a good day. I'm not going to be worried about this. This is going to work out for me, whatever. And then as you're drinking whatever it is, your coffee, your smoothie, your tea, your water, then you're bringing that into your body, into your cells. So everything starts to shift and everything starts to get on board basically with what you're wanting. And another one that I love is the shower. Mm-hmm. And the shower is, as you're washing your hair, as you're washing your body, think of all of your troubles and all your worries and all of your hurts or angers, if because we're human, we all have these lovely feelings that sometimes just sort of want to take over. And just picture them like being washed away as you're washing, and then they're going down the drain, and watch them go down the drain so they actually get out of your body and your head. It's amazing, some of the very practical, easy tools and tips and tricks that you can do to bring in the spiritual practices that we all want to partake in. That, yes, it would be wonderful if we could do that for 2, 3, 4 hours every day. But we have businesses to run. We have families to take care of. We have different things that we take up our time, bills to pay. So marketing to do. So it's always really fun to find ways to bring in the spirituality into your everyday without feeling like it's another burden or a chore that you have to do.
Thank you for those tips.
Yeah, yes, thank you. Yeah, I had when I was looking at your website, and I had subscribed to it because you had given that as a choice to get your intentions, and that was the first one I read about stirring it in, and I had never thought about that before. And what a and I meant just even saying the intentions once is good, right? As you stir them in,
Mhm.
but to think of how you have alchemized the water, then, right? You have restructured the water, and then so your water's better, but then you're drinking those intentions. It's kind of like I do that with moon water, right? Because I set
Yeah.
out a jar of water at the full moon and the dark moon or new moon, and I do that, but I had never thought of doing it daily. That's awesome. Yeah, or the shower. Yeah, good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Would you guys be interested in doing a little exercise with me?
Love to. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So this is going to be an interesting exercise. So what I want you to do, and you can take a piece of paper, or you can just think of them in your head or whatever, and I want you to write down all of your priorities. Wife, daughter, maybe you've got, well, Carla, you've got your asparagus that you need to pick. So that's a huge priority,
Yeah.
right? Maybe it's your job, maybe, so it's like everything that you like, everything's sort of on your to-do list that's right there at the tip of your, the top of your head, the tip of your fingers. And just give you a little bit of time to do that. And if though anybody watching the replay or is watching live, I invite you guys to do this too. And then what I want you to do as you've taken a look at that list is I want you to star or highlight the ones that you think are the most important right here, right now, right this moment. Okay. Now I want you to close your eyes. And I want you to picture in your head family members you love. Friends you love. Things you enjoy doing. Things you want to be doing. Now we're going to go the opposite direction. I want you to picture things that you don't want to be doing. I want you to picture those tasks that you put off because you really don't like doing them, even though you know you have to. And then we're going to, go the other way too with family and friends. Maybe it's the people who, they're family and friends. You have to be nice to them, but you really wish that they were kind of not really around as much, maybe. Okay, now I want you to open your eyes. All of those things you liked, all of those things that you enjoy doing, those are your glass balls. Everything else is a plastic ball. If you take a look at your list and you've prioritized having to clean the house as a top priority, I want you to think of, is it really? Or can that ball bounce without breaking? What have you prioritized as a glass ball that if it drops and breaks, it's done for, that maybe should be a plastic ball? Plastic balls bounce, glass balls don't. It's okay to drop the plastic balls. It's okay to put them off. But if your health, if you haven't prioritized your health, your well-being, your dreams, your desires, your income stream as a glass ball, and you've sort of pushed it off to the background, things need to be relooked at. And these balls interchange all the time. Tax time, those annoying tasks of having to get your finances all in order become a glass ball, right? The rest of the year, they could be a plastic ball, unless, of course, you really enjoy doing them, and then, more power to you. But if you prioritize some of these items and tasks that really shouldn't be as important in your life as important, then you're living your life potentially from someone else's expectations and perspectives, and you're not living them from your own. To me, Carla, your garden is a glass ball, personally, just knowing what I know about you, because it's part of who you are at your soul.
Yes, now this gives a little, I guess, thing to think about. But pulling the weeds doesn't have to be the glass ball, right?
Exactly. Unless
Planting
they
and
are
watering.
impacting. Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
But, as women, we tend to prioritize different things than we really should be prioritizing in our lives, because it's what we've been taught. It's what we've learned. It's what, different expectations have been put upon us. It's time that we figure out what our own glass balls are and what our own plastic balls are, and be able to prioritize appropriately.
Yeah.
Did you guys have any ahas from your list? Any realizations, or were you pretty close at like what your glass balls are versus what your plastic balls are? Because whatever you put down as a priority on your list, you first identified as a glass ball.
Mm. Oh, okay. Oh, that's interesting. Huh. Well, now, because I didn't think of the only thing I put down of actual like stuff to do, right? I put just garden. I didn't put
Mhm,
anything else. And then I put business. I didn't like
mhm.
put down a detail. I didn't even think about housework that needed to be done or chores that needed to be done. That didn't even come to my mind, right? I was putting down relationships.
Mhm.
Um, and and then after I listed all the relationships that, came to my mind, then it was grow spiritually, which to me would be is the highest one. Why I didn't think of that late first, but to me that's the highest glass ball, or the most fragile well, I don't know if that's a good terminology, but
But sometimes it can be a plastic ball too.
well, you have to when I have to go out and water the garden and don't have time to sit and do meditation. And that happens like a lot in the springtime because I have to do so much in the morning before it gets hot, because things have to be planted well, they can be planted in the evening, but anything that needed to be harvested, you need to harvest in the morning because it's sweet and fresh then. If you wait and harvest in the afternoon or evening, it's lost a lot of its energy through the heat of the day. And so that, yeah, there is a timeline, and definitely the trick is for me is to try to use what I do in the garden as a meditation. And sometimes I'm successful and sometimes I'm not, depending on if I have to watch the time or not.
Yep.
My thoughts are that this podcast is all about awareness. And once you're aware of how you act and think, then you have a choice. I mean, once you become aware, you hardly don't want to go back, especially if it's a negative choice, a negative habit, negative pattern. So the best thing to do is to just notice how you think, notice how you observe. What are you doing? And so, which is a work in progress. Every day I notice, boy, do I go down the rabbit hole? I mean, why? It's just a pattern, but at least I'm aware of it, and and then it becomes transformation, because eventually I get tired of going down that same rabbit hole, and I just switch it, and it becomes easier to switch it. Yeah. But sometimes those patterns that I've been ingrained with, those are challenging. But you're absolutely right, Tami. Once it's we don't love trauma, but once we find the nugget or our shadow, is where really lies in the truth of who we really are, because we just did that to protect ourselves, because we didn't know how, or mother, all the reasons. But so I'm learning to notice my shadows, and instead of running, being a little curious, like, why do I think that? Or on and on. Yeah. So that's my thoughts today. Yeah.
Beautiful.
I love it.
Tami, is there anything else you'd like to share with us about? Well, we haven't had you tell your business, how people can get hold of you and things, and I'll list them below later too in the description.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, no, people can find me. The name of my business is Speak Your Soul Magicks, because I really do. It's magical to be able to speak your soul out into the world and live it. And it's Magicks is Magicks. I like spelling it the old way rather than the new way. So people can find me through my website. You can find me on Facebook, both personally and through my business page. And you can also find me on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. I'm all over the place. LinkedIn. If people would like to reach out to me, they are more than welcome to click on any of the links below, find me on my website, or send me an email at Tami@speakyoursoulmagics.com. So I'd love to hear from any of you. I am anxious to see the comments if anybody watches the replay. It has been wonderful meeting all three. Well, Carla, it's been wonderful getting reacquainted again, and Ramie and Jessica, it is wonderful meeting you both. I'm very interested in learning more about both of you. So,
Thank you.
Fun.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. Awesome. Tami, and thank you for stimulating thoughts and discussion and lots of tips today. So
You are very welcome. It was a lot of fun.
great. So I guess unless anyone has another comment, we'll go ahead and end for today. And thank you everyone for watching. And please check out Tami's website, and we'll look forward to being with you again next week.